His Excellency, President Ramaphosa, it's my honor and pleasure, sir, to read this plaque dedicated to the life and history of President Oliver Reginald Tambo. Oliver Reginald Tambo, commonly known as OR, born in 1917, President.
1917.
Yes. And passed away in 1993. I now quote Madiba, how he characterized President OR. He says the following: a great giant who strode the globe like a colossus. Close quote. Thank you so much, President.
Thank you very much. I would request the mayor to lead the president and the team to come straight to the statue to officially open the statue.
President. Another inscription, President, unveiled by His Excellency President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, on the 3rd of March 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now come straight at this side. The team will assist us. Njengamanje ke sesovula istatue sika baba Oliver Tambo. Ashaya izandla ke sabayivulile, siyabonga kakhulu. Then the team will then remove the cover so that all of us we can see this beautiful statue. Ashaya izandla sonke ke nasi stage sesiyasibona esikhulukazi nesihle kakhulu. Sibonge kakhulu baba umeya nenkosi, sibonga umkhandlu wonke weTheku, sibonga amakhansela, sibonga abasebenzi bonke bamasipala, sibonge bonke abantu abakhona, osomabhizinisi, deputy ministers, abaholi abasuka emkhakheni ehlukahlukene. Yeah, I will request now the last item in our program for pictures. Excellent, the President, the Mayor, and the Tambo family. Let's take pictures Then after that, we'll all leave and move straight to Moses Mabhida Stadium for our second program. We are going to allow His Excellency the President, His Worship the Mayor, to come next to the statue. To come next to the statue to have pictures.
Okay.
Sorry, can I request that we move closer to the side because the statue is facing this way. Yes, just here. More. Yes, more. Yes, more. Yes, that's fine.
And can we just move back a little bit? Yeah, just
Uma siqeda ukushaya ithombe sonke siyamuva siya eMoses Mabhida for our second program. Then the formal program will start later after unveiling the statue of the former President Nelson Mandela, where we are going to have our formal program. Ubongameli uzobingelela omama laba entertaining us here. Siyabonga kakhulu nokubakhona kwabo ukwenza umcimbi wethu bemuhle. Sesibongile kakhulu sesinganyakaza sonke sikhuphukeleni eMabhida la soba neprogram yethu yesibili, then sibe neyokugcina esithathe formal phakathi. Siyabonga kakhulu ngokuba ingxenye le program. His Worship the Mayor is leading the team to open the plaque. Then quickly we'll open the statue. We're going to have a very short program here. His Excellency, the President of the Republic. Yeah. We are opening the flag. I'm sure everything is ready. From the team, Skyler's Corner. Again, His Worship the Mayor will read the message on the statue. May I have the microphone, please, for His Worship?
Speaker, you can use that one. Then the same thing, you pull cut and then we
Let's clap hands as they open the flag. His Worship the Mayor will read.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Presidency, President Ramaphosa. It's my honor once again to read the inscription. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, 1918 to 2013. 2013. This is the quote I want to read from Mandela himself. Open quote, I've cherished the ideal of a democratic and free South Africa, close quote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Worship. I would request that you come this side again to read the message this side. Then after that, we'll go straight to open the statue.
Yes.
Bayayisika ke manje ribhini mebeyisika nje shaya izandla kakhulu sebazoyivula ke sibone. Can you please team that assist us sivuleke istage sisibone sonke ukuthi sinjani, then emveni kalokho sizothatha izithombe abaholi bethu bebeqeda ukuthatha izithombe sizongena ngaphakathi la soba khona nesession yesithathu neyokugcina okuyi-formal program.
Look and look. Look and look.
Look at him. Look at him.
Shaya izandla. Sibona kakhulu seniyasibona ke ukuthi sihle kangakanani. Njengamanje ke we will take pictures as we've done earlier in the day. Then after that we will move.
We may all take our seats. His Excellency President Mandela Cyril Ramaphosa, Honorable Deputy Ministers Gina Dube and Dube, former Minister Mr. Jeff Radebe, Presidential eThekwini Working Group Co-Chair Mr. Mike Mabuyakulu, the struggle stalwart Mr. Mek Maharaj, representatives from the Tambo family, former mayors. Of course, I also have acknowledged our own mayor, Councillor Cyril Ramaphosa, former speakers, Provincial Chaplain Apostle El Magwaza, the leaders of political parties, regional and provincial, Rear Admiral Neville Howell of South African Navy Base in Durban, the Consular General of the People's Republic of China, the representative of the Consular General Office of Mozambique, the Consular General of Georgia, the chairperson of the KZN Growth Coalition, Mr. Moses Tembe, the president of Durban Chamber, the CEO of Durban Chamber, the business people who are with us here, the city managers, the executive directors, the members of the public who are with us, eThekwini Local House of Traditional Leaders led by Inkosi Yesizwe, Inkosi yakithi uSimangaya Mlaba Ndabezitha. Religious leaders who are here, Provincial Chaplain Apostle El Magwaza, representatives from sports associations and federations, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you. Councillors, Na ngizophelelwa umsebenzi. Ngiyaxolisa abaqashi bami. Ngifuna ukuthi ngi-acknowledge kabili, honorable councillors. We are gathered here to celebrate the heritage of our most beautiful country, a country without its rich history being known across the board and consistently so is a defeated country. What His Majesty Excellency has done was to unveil the statues of our great leaders, which as a council we strongly believe it's going to add in enriching our heritage, but also in ensuring that it is a draw card to tourists. The already thriving tourism sector of Durban is going to benefit a significant deal as a result of what the President has unveiled this morning. This is part of our effort to try to ensure that we increase a number of tourists from 1.2 million additional tourists that we received in the last festive season to a targeted 1.5 million. So it is important that we diversify our tourism offering so that we continue to be on the great path of success. Without much further ado, we have a very short program that I want to go through very quickly. We are going to get an opening prayer by Pastor V. Dube. The national anthem will be sang, opening remarks and acknowledgement of guests, which I've just done. Welcome address by His Worship the Mayor. Remarks from the families, the Tambo family, memo for Mr. O.R. Tambo, and memo for Dr. Nelson Mandela, which will be done respectively by Mr. Mek Maharaj and Mr. J. Khadebe. Then thereafter we will have a keynote address by His Excellency the President of the Republic of South Africa and a vote of thanks by Councillor Nyawos. Without much further ado, Nzwakele Mbuyaz, bengicela ukunikela kuwena baba. Thank you very much.
Program Director, bengithi mangisuma ngizoshana umezandlana njengasenkonzweni. With all protocol observed, but it would be very unethical not to greet usibali wami engamhambisela inkomo. President Mandela, siyakubingelela. Ngiyakhumbula eminyakeni edlule sasikuyona le ndawo. Simeme abefundisi begcwele kule ndawo. You said a very powerful statement that religious leaders and pastors are not just people, but they are partners, stakeholders in the government and in the ANC. I just want to read these few words and then I will pray. They are found in the book of Joshua chapter 24. I will read them in Zulu. Ngilandele ukwenza kukababa uBishop Mgojo. Abantu bathi kuJoshua, uJehova wethu siyakumkhonza, silalele futhi izwi lakhe. uJoshua wasenza isivumelwano nabantu, ngalo lolo suku wabamisela isimiso nomthetho. Wesethi uJoshua waseloba amazwi encwadini yomthetho, wathatha itshe elikhulu walimisa phambi kwe-okhi elingaseni lelitshe liyakuba ngubufakazi ngathi ngokuba lizwile wonke amazwi kaJehova akhulunyiwe. Ngalokho leyoba ufakazi ngani funa nimphike uJehova wenu. Uqhubeka athi nokwenza lokhu ukuze izingane zenu nesizukulwane senu uma sibuza nibe na indlela yokusitshela umlando. What you saw today is a good example of what Joshua did. Placing this stone, he said it's a stone of remembrance. Le mfanekiso esivule namhlanje imfanekiso of the remembrance where we come from, where we are. I like the height and tallness because they show where we are going. We are going to hold upon the words and the deeds of these leaders that we respected today. And we know that every time when we mention their names, it will mean something in our history. One difficult thing before I pray, and one thing that we must guard against, is to forget where we come from, forget where we are. We'll also forget where we are going. We pray that today, sisavula lezi teshu, baye bathi ngesiZulu, anyakaze amathambo obabomkhulu, basikhumbule, basibheke ezweni lethu. We are trusting God that today it marks a day where most of our problems that we see in our country will be resolved. Because uNkulunkulu uma esinikeza isikhumbuzo usuke eqiniseka ukuthi la nikhona nala niyakhona indlela yenu izokhanya. Baba uPresident, we appreciate ukuthi ube khona namhlanje. Thina ke njengabaholi nanjengabaholi bakalizwi siyakholelwa kakhulu ebuholeni balaba abaphethe izwe lethu ngoba babekwe uNkulunkulu. Futhi ke singakholwa ukuthi uNkulunkulu ukugcinile uzothi mawusende over ibaton uzoyihand over kubafowenu nodadewenu beAfrican National Congress okuyifuna ukuthi sithathe leli thuba sikhulekele izwe lethu. Ngicela sisukume sime ngezinyawo. Lizali sidinga lakho Thixo siyenyaniso zonke izizwe mazizu amadolo lili awako zide zithizo ziluqe asikhuleke uNkulunkulu omuhle noNkulunkulu osithandayo. Wena uNkulunkulu ogcine isizwe sakho, wena uNkulunkulu oyingcwele owabheka obaba bethu nobaba omkhulu bangafele endle bengazange baqiniseke ukuba lelizwe liyakhuleka. Namhlanje uNkulunkulu oyingcwele usuku olumlando lapho siphakamisa amaqhawe ethu senzele ukuthi isizukulwane esizayo sibe ngofakazi bobaba nomama abakwazi ukumela izimo ukuze namhlanje sicelebrate inkululeko yethu. Baba siyabonga ukuthi nangalonyaka wokhetho uzophinde ulwenze lube ukhetho onokuthula. Siyabonga uNkulunkulu oyingcwele ukuthi noma sizwa ngezimpi namhlanje ezenzeka emazweni njengoba izwi lakho la profeta, kodwa thina uNkulunkulu oyingcwele usasigcinile usasilondolozile. Yenza ke uNkulunkulu oyingcwele ukukhonza kwethu la ezweni lethu. Wenze uNkulunkulu oyingcwele ukuba izisekelo zalo zime phezu kwesisekelo esinguwe. We pray this morning, oh God, God bless Africa, guide her children, guide her rulers, and give her peace. Amen.
Siyabonga emboyazi, siyabonga Nzwakele. Sicela labo abazos leader nge national anthem babe besilekelela. Oh, besicela ibandla lesukume. You may take your seat. Kulesi sigaba bengifisa ukunxusa uSokhaya imeya yeTheku. Thank you so much. Sengibekela indawo okukhulu.
Program Director, Mr. Musambele, our City Manager, His Excellency the President of the Republic of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, MECs, eThekwini Municipality Speaker of Council, Councillor Thabani Nyawose, Inkosi Mlaba namakhosi wonke asendlunkulu aphakathi kwethu, umndeni wakaTambo nomndeni wakaMadiba, former Minister Mr. Jeff Radebe, former Minister Mr. Mekaraj, Diplomatic Corps, co-chairperson of the Presidential eThekwini Working Group, Mr. Mabuya Kulu, eThekwini Municipal Deputy Mayor, Councillor Zandile Mieni, former speakers and former mayors, eThekwini Municipality ESCO, Executive Committee members, all councillors present, business leaders, religious leaders, all senior government officials present, Admiral Howell, the Chief of our Metropolis present, heads of department, ladies and gentlemen, good day. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this prestigious occasion as we commemorate and honor our struggle stalwarts, former President Nelson Mandela and Ubaba Oliver Tambo. Your Excellency, sir, when we were planning the unveiling of these statutes, we could think of no one more fitting to perform this honor than yourself. We thank you sincerely for accepting our invitation. Your presence here today is a fitting tribute to these liberation heroes from whom you continue to draw inspiration as you lead the people of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the location of these statues are deeply significant. Each statue celebrates the extraordinary contribution. Mandela statue is a reminder of his landmark address that came to define, you recall, former President Nelson Mandela addressed his first biggest mass rally in Durban at Kings Park Stadium. The rally through more than years of incarceration on Robben Island. During that rally, President Mandela made a profound statement, and I quote, "Take your guns, spears, and pangas and throw them into the sea. Close the death factories. End this war now." Close quote. Although this declaration did not resonate well with young people who were caught in the midst of violence that had engulfed the province, displaced scores of people, and destroyed many lives, it paved the way for peace and stability in our country, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. That moment marked a turning point in our journey towards reconciliation and nation building. From that day forward, President Mandela emerged not only as a freedom fighter, but as a unifying figure and a global symbol of peace. He immersed himself in building bridges across racial, religious, and cultural divides. It is in this context that his term of office was characterized by deepening peace, unity, and reconciliation, embodied in the Reconstruction and Development Program. The Reconstruction and Development Program was an integrated socio-economic policy framework aimed at mobilizing South Africans and our collective resources towards dismantling the legacy of apartheid and building a democratic, non-racial, and non-sexist society. Therefore, the erection of former President Mandela's statue at this site must serve as a constant reminder, not only of the man as a striking icon, but also of the powerful message of peace and nation building he delivered on these very same grounds. Let his statue be a reminder that the work he started is not over yet. In the same vein, the towering statue of Oliver Tambo on the beachfront reminds us of his journey across oceans, convincing the world about the importance of breaking down the walls of apartheid. The statue is not just a symbol of heroic role and exemplary leadership. It immortalizes the life of a man who laid the foundation for a new nation. Steeped in democracy, he produced a document that came to be known as Harare Declaration that set out conditions under which negotiations for a democratic South Africa may take place. This is a leader who consistently reminded us that unity and discipline were essential for victory against apartheid. Indeed, both these leaders were architects of our democracy, peace, and reconciliation. We trust that these statutes will inspire present and future generations to learn more about the immense contributions these striking icons made in building the democratic South Africa we enjoy today. I want to state categorically that we will continue to implement programs that seek to transform our heritage landscape in the city. It is in this context that in partnership with the provincial government, we have erected
the 1860 Indentured Workers Monument at South Beach. The 5 million rand bronze sculpture was unveiled in November last year to commemorate 165 years since the arrival of the first indentured Indian workers in KwaZulu-Natal aboard the SS Churo in 1860. It honors the sacrifice, so it honors the legacy, sacrifices, and contributions of Indian indentured laborers to our province and the city. We are also engaging the Embassy of Portugal regarding the relocation of the statue of Portuguese Botanic Gardens in order to better preserve and honor his legacy. This forms part of our broader commitment to promoting shared heritage and unity in diversity, the values that Mandela and Tambo championed throughout their lives. Beyond heritage transformation, these monuments form part of our broader strategy to expand tourism infrastructure and enhance tourism offerings, encouraging visitors to stay longer in Durban. Your Excellency, last year we convened a tourism stakeholder engagement where I called upon the sector to partner with the city in expanding tourism infrastructure. We want visitors who arrive in Durban to spend their money here because of the diverse tourism products available. We strongly believe that government must lead the way by creating a conducive environment for private sector investment. I'm pleased that the private sector is responding positively. I wish to reiterate, Honorable President, Your Excellency, that the city has not diverted funds from service delivery to construct these statues. We are a tourism city. We therefore put money where our mouth is. The council approved this project in 2018 and it was funded from the tourism budget. I want to assure you that we are rebuilding the city and we appreciate your support, Mr. President. We are receiving from, and the support we are receiving from all spheres of government through the DDM and the Presidential eThekwini Working Group. The green shoots of recovery are visible. We continue to attract investment and visitors' numbers are steadily increasing. With the proposed Durban-Johannesburg high-speed train, we are confident that even visitors landing in Johannesburg will travel to Durban with ease. This will be a true game changer, enabling residents working in Durban to spend their weekends here at home, contributing to our local economy. Our residents who work in Johannesburg, they will have no reason why they don't spend their weekends in Durban. Anyone who travels from Johannesburg to Durban, you eat your breakfast in Johannesburg, you get your lunch in Durban, and if you still want to go back to Johannesburg, you will find your lunch, your supper ready for you. With those words, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Sibonga nonkosi. Thank you very much. Amabhantshi sesingawakhumula. Siwabeka. Can I please take this opportunity to also introduce the Consular General from India, but also the representative of the Consular General of the United States, who is also with us here. Phinde ngi acknowledge co-chair we Presidential eThekwini Working Group, DG Dr. Baleni. The next item is going to be the remarks from the families. Bengicela ngokuthobeka ukuthi ngicele lo omele umndeni wakaTambo asondele ngaphambili akwazi ukuthi asiphe amazwi. Siyabonga mfowethu. Asimpheni izandla bakwethu.
Anginibingelele bantu base KZN. Kuyangithokozisa kakhulu ukuthola ithuba elifana leli lokuthi ngibe phambi kwenu. Ladies and gentlemen, ukubulisa nje uprogram director, umeya weTheku, umongameli welizwe, former minister Khadebe no Baba Umek Maharaj. Ngenxa ke ubunizi baninzi babonileyo khona apha ngaphakathi abafana no Dr. Lomo nabanye nje abaningi engeke ngibabone ngithokozisa kakhulu ukuthi ngibabone ngifake umfana emlomo nabo. Siwumndeni wakaTambo ke siyafisa ukuyazisa iKZN ukuthi oWarTambo lo obekwe istatue sakhe lapha ebeachfront uqhamuka kuphi. uWarTambo uzalwe kwilali yasenkantolo ezalwa uMr Frederick Mlokomani Mzimeli Tambo oyindodana kaNqwashu. uNqwashu ozala uTambo. uTambo ezalwa kuNonduze. uNonduze ezalwa nguFani. uTambo ke wayesuka eHarding kwisigodi sakwaMachi. Esuka khona ngezimo zokuthi isimo esasikhona ngesosikhathi sobandlululo sabamcindezela kakhulu. Wabona uTambo ukuthi akahambe aye kwisigodi saseFlagstaff. Wafika wathola khona amadoda, wayehamba namadodana akhe amabili, uNqwashu nomfowabo uMqhuqu. uNqwashu wabese yasuka ke kwindawo yaseFlagstaff wayebhizana wathola umzimeli wazala uTambo. Ngokufushane uWarTambo igazi lakhe lisefresh kakhulu kwiprovince yaseKZN. It is an honor to the African National Congress to be given opportunity to be part of this unveiling of the statue of Reginald Oliver Tambo. I stand before you today as a representative of the Tambo family at the express request on behalf of Dali Tambo, the son of the late Oliver Reginald Tambo. Our revered father stalwart of the liberation struggle and former president of the African National Congress. We as Tambo family of Durban, we gathered to unveil the statue of Oliver Tambo. This magnificent monument stands as a lasting tribute to his unwavering leadership. He is quite resilient in exile, and his pivotal role in steering our movement towards freedom and democracy. It remains our great and earnest wish As Tambo family, to see all our leaders, particularly those within the ANC, emulate the exemplary footstep of Oliver Tambo, his integrity, his selflessness, his steadfast commitment to principle over personal gain, and his unwavering dedication to the service of people and cause of justice. Yet we must acknowledge with deep disappointment that in recent time, certain actions and attitude displayed by some leaders within the ANC have given rise to distrust and disillusionment among many who once placed full confidence in the movement. This behavior not only renders us collectively incompetent in the eyes of many, but has regrettably led our people to turn away from the party in growing numbers. Kuba bengenelisekanga kukuziphatha kwamaqabane. Today, as we gather here, our most fervent wish as Tambo family is that accountability be rigorously enforced across all Yaxolisa bakwethu. Yaxolisa kakhulu. Ngikhohliwe ukuyicisha ifoni. Iphuthe lami ngixolisela kakhulu. But okay. Today, as we gather here, our most fervent wish as Tambo family is that we are compelled to observe with a heavy heart that Oliver Tambo name is used time and gain for political advantage, employ in speeches, campaigns and commemorations to lend legitimacy and a moral way, yet the living relatives of this, not even the most basic opportunities such as ordinary employment of support. Okuhle nesiye siziduduze ngako ukuthi o-R Tambo uthe uma ibuya e-exile waqinisekisa ukuthi i-ANC ayingeke yabhilizwa umunye umuntu, kuzoba sezandleni zethu ukuthi siyibhilize. Kusiphatha kabuhlungu kakhulu siwumndeni okaTambo ukubona i-ANC yehla ngalendlela eyehla ngayo, iphelelwa ngamandla, and kuyasilimaza kakhulu thina siwumndeni ngoba abantu bayasihleka bathu baba wenu wayenzani, ngoba ugovernment wethu kufanele athathe isinyathelo esibanzi ukulwisana nomgebengu lobu okubonakala ukuxosha abantu abaningi enhlanganweni. Ikhaya labaTambo liyabulela kakhulu kumasipala weTheku, nakubo bonke abantu base KZN, amakhosi, omeya nabaningi abakhona ukuthi banikezwe ithuba elifana leli ukuthi kubekwe istatue sika Oliver Tambo. Ngiyabonga, ngiyabonga kakhulu. Ngiyaxolisa. uTambo, uMachi, uGoba, uMbusi, uLawo kaNdenze. Basehadingi. Sinenkosi nje sehadingi abaningi bayazi uSigidi. Siphuma ebukhosini bazibaka Machi siyabonga.
Bengithi ngiyasho nje ukuthi nami lapho ngidabuka khona ngidabuka Harding. Bengithi nje ngikuphawule ukuthi lo hlobo lethu noTambo into ethi ayibe yodwa. Ningathuki manje ngibona nami sengisho njengaye uTambo. Thank you very much. The next item is the memoir of Oliver Reginald Tambo, which will be read by Mr. Mac Maharaj. Over to you. Let's give him a round of applause.
Mr. President, distinguished guests, it's an honor and a privilege to join you at the unveiling of the statues celebrating two giants of our liberation struggle. The achievements and successes of our struggle belong to thousands, nay, millions, who stood up against the inhumanity of the colonial and apartheid system. The people, it is said, are the makers of history. Our quest to build a system based on equality, non-racialism, non-sexism, democracy, and unity must never be allowed to stray from the goal of creating an empowered citizenry. This is the context that enables us to understand and appreciate the role of individuals who emerge as servants of the people. Such individuals are the products of the people's struggle. When they develop and emerge as true servants of the people, they become the embodiment of the people's quest for freedom. It is important for us to distinguish between the democracy that we have achieved and humankind's march to freedom. In the concluding chapter of his autobiography, The Long Walk to Freedom, Madiba relied on this distinction. He reminded us that with the advent of democracy, some thought that we had achieved our goal of liberating the oppressed and the oppressor. But Madiba wrote that, and I quote, "The truth is that we are not yet free. We have merely achieved the freedom to be free, the right not to be oppressed. We have not taken," he said, "the final step of our journey, but the first step on a longer and even more difficult road. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. The true test of our devotion to freedom," he said, "is just beginning," end quote. On the occasion of this unveiling, it is worth reminding ourselves that when we, as members of the great and illustrious organization that led the struggle, that when we falter, it is when we lose sight of the fact that leaders are born of the people. It is when we begin to make people believe that they should leave us as leaders to make change happen. When we begin to urge people to be passive witnesses to social change rather than for them to be shapers of change. it is impossible to properly appreciate the role of either Oliver Tambo or Nelson Mandela if we are not mindful of the fact that it was the trio of Tambo, Mandela, and Walter Sisulu who were joined at the hip and constituted a force greater than the sum of the parts. From the time of the formation of the African National Congress Youth League in 1944, the three of them worked together and developed in step with each other. They did so without succumbing to rivalry, without competing with each other, and with a deep and abiding sense of respect for each other's views, because they were unshakable in their commitment to serve the people. And so today, at this unveiling, what do we take away from the life of Oliver Reginald Tambo? Tambo was a formidable intellectual and an organizer. He was part of the process of molding an exclusive African nationalism on which the African National Youth League was founded, of molding that into an inclusive African nationalism which found expression in the Freedom Charter adopted at Cape Town in 1955. When the Pan-Africanist Congress broke away from the ANC in 1958, Tambo was at the forefront defending the principles of the Freedom Charter. When repression almost decimated the liberation movement, many organizations were forced into the underground and exile, and many of them crumbled and survive today as shadows of themselves, while the ANC, led by Tambo, emerged as the acknowledged leader of the democratic forces within South Africa. Tambo came into his own during the turbulent period of 1985-1989. O'Malley captures Tambo's indispensable role during this period succinctly. He writes, Tambo had, and I quote, had to plan for the seizure of power as well as for a protracted armed struggle, of ways of balancing our four pillars of struggle, of strangling the regime through economic sanction, and of a negotiated settlement. Each course of action had to be pursued, and the various pursuits were interrelated. Max Vula and Mbeki's Mel's Park talks complemented each other. Tambo orchestrated both, and he knew too, as a result of the visits of Ismail Ayub and George Bizos to Lusaka, that Mandela was in contact with the South African government, end quote. The genius of Tambo lives in the Harare Declaration that he put together in declarations which culminated in the elected Constitutional Assembly, which deliberated for 2 years and adopted the 1996 Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. When some charlatans today repudiate that Constitution, they turn their backs on the most credible and legitimate founding document of our country, and they attempt to portray themselves as being above the people. And in the process, they tarnish the service and the memory of Oliver Reginald Tambo. I remind ourselves of these aspects because legacies should not be allowed to be cast in stone. Each generation ought to interrogate, revisit, and question a legacy. It is only through this kind of process that each generation is able to arrive at an understanding that makes a legend relevant to their lives. That is the route for the past to have meaning in the present. The potential of a Mandela, a Tambo, a Sisulu exists in each of us. we live in a world and at a time when powerful forces are determined to assert that might is right. Forces that seek to instill fear instead of friendship. Forces that strive to divide rather than unite people. Our country is not immune to this virus that seems to be sweeping through so much of the world. Let us therefore interrogate their legacies and take away from the lives that which will bring out the Tambo, the Mandela, the Sisulu in us, in empowerment of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Maharaj. Without much further ado, I'd like to call upon former Minister, Mr. Jeff Hadebe, to give us a memo for Dr. Nelson Mandela. Makhulukhulu Pungan. Thank you.
Thank you. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, His Worship the Mayor, councillors present here, Inkosi Yesizwe Umlaba, I stand on the protocol that has already been decided. Today we gather not merely to unveil status, but to honor history and measure ourselves against it. We stand before the likeness of President Mandela and President Tambo. These were not simply leaders of an organization. They were custodians of a national dream, the architects of democratic possibility and moral authority in moments of profound uncertainty. These leaders did not merely change a government. They altered the moral direction of a country and repositioned South Africa in the conscience of humanity. Allow me, therefore, to share not a biography, but a memo, reflections shaped by history as well as gratitude. On the 11th of February 1990, while incarcerated on Robben Island, we witnessed the release of President Mandela from Vita Fextel prison after 27 years of imprisonment. President Ramaphosa was there. That day did not feel like an ordinary political development. It felt like the turning of an age. For decades, the apartheid regime had tried to reduce President Mandela to a number, 44664, to silence his voice, to erase him from relevance. Yet his imprisonment achieved the direct opposition. It elevated him beyond the bars that confined him. When he walked through those gates, hand in hand with Mama Winnie Mandela, South Africa did not see a defeated man. It saw the embodiment of endurance. It was as though a long-awaited dawn had finally broken. The excitement was overwhelming. It felt as though a liberator had returned, not to claim vengeance, but to guide reconciliation, not to deepen division, but to heal a wounded nation. That day marked the restoration of moral authority to the center of our national life. Then came 27 April 1994, a historic day that all South Africans and the continent will always remember. We were waiting where all South Africans, black and white, voted together for a government of their choosing. This in exile, and President Mandela this in exile, and President Mandela consummated in 1994 was not merely a political transition, it was a covenant with the people of South Africa. Freedom, President Mandela understood, is never self-executing. It is carried forward by disciplined generations who refuse to abandon its promise. That covenant remains binding on all of us today. If President Mandela embodied that moral conscience of the struggle, ANC President Tambo embodied its strategic mind. Tambo was simply not safeguarding a banned organization in exile. He was designing the path to victory. At a time when the liberation movement faced suffocation inside the country, its leaders imprisoned, its structures dismantled, President Tambo ensured that it did not collapse. He understood that apartheid would not fall through moral appeal alone. It required mass mobilization inside the country, underground organization, the armed struggle, and the sustained international solidarity. For nearly 3 decades, under conditions of banning, surveillance, scarce resources, and relentless apartheid aggression, President Tambo carried the aspirations of an entire people across continents. He worked closely with a generation of Africans themselves who were confronting colonial domination, forging bonds of solidarity that sustained the struggle materially and politically. At home, while Nelson Mandela and Walter Sisulu endured imprisonment, and while comrades advanced the armed struggle, it was Tambo who held it together, the political center of gravity of the movement. He maintained unity, he sustained morale, he preserved strategic coherence. History will record that very few leaders would have sustained such responsibility with such steadiness for such a prolonged period. Without his foresight, there will be no coherent transition in 1994. In 1998, I had the honor of chairing the committee that organized the celebration of Mandela's 30th birthday and his marriage to Mama Graça Machel. The world's greatest artists gathered in tribute. Yet, what struck me most was not the spectacle, but the humility of the man Mandela. Despite global admiration, President Nelson Mandela remained grounded. He carried no bitterness. He exhibited no arrogance. He had endured 27 years in prison, yet he emerged without hatred. I was further honored when President Mandela appointed me to serve as his Minister of Public Works in the first cabinet of our democratic South Africa. That appointment to me was not merely a personal privilege, but it was a reminder that freedom carries responsibility, and that those entrusted with office must serve with discipline, must serve with humility. President Nelson Mandela's 1964 Rivonia trial statement from the dock remains one of the most powerful declarations of principle in modern political history. When he declared that he was prepared to die for the ideal of a democratic and free society, he set a standard. Those words inspired many of us. They demanded courage. They demanded consistency between belief and action. Today, the question is not whether we can quote these words, but the big question is whether we can live by them. On the 13th of December 2013, I was present in Nelson Mandela's home in Gauteng, Johannesburg, when he breathed his last, surrounded by Mama Graça Machel, Mama Winnie Mandela, his children and grandchildren. It was a quiet moment, and in that room, one understood that history is carried by human beings, frail in body, yet immense in spirit. A generation had completed its assignment, responsibility transferred to others. Political liberation did not automatically erase poverty, inequality, or injustice. It created the opportunity to address them. Freedom opened the door. It did not complete the journey. That is why ethical leadership and disciplined governance remain essential. President Mandela and President Tambo did not endure sacrifices so that public office could become a pathway to personal enrichment. Leadership in their understanding meant service. If we are not prepared to conduct ourselves ethically, when no one is watching, we are not worthy to invoke their names when everybody is watching. Statutes cannot defend values, only conduct can. As we unveil these statutes today, that courage without bitterness is strength. President Tambo reminds us that strategy without ego is leadership. Together, they remind us that freedom is not inheritance to be consumed, but a trust to be safeguarded. Monuments do not keep history alive, conduct does. Statutes do not defend democracy, character does. When future generations stand before these figures, they will not ask whether we admire them. They will ask whether we are measured up to them. History will not record the elegance of ceremonies. It will record whether we upheld the standards of Mandela and Tambo. May we carry that discipline in our decisions. May we carry their humility in our service. May we carry their courage in moments of doubt. And may it never be said of our generation that we received freedom in trust and failed to guard it. I thank you.
Kukhona abancomayo lapha bathi hayi isinqawunqawu ke lesi ebesikhuluma kodwa ngeke basidlule thina bawamaca. Thank you very much. I think now it's the great moment where we will all be required to stand and welcome His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa on stage. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, let me stand on the protocols that you so eloquently articulated right at the beginning. But having said so, let me extend my greetings to the Tambo and the Mandela families and thank them for being present here as we unveil these statues. And also extend my greetings to the ministers and deputy ministers who are here present, and to the executive mayor of eThekwini, His Worship, my namesake, Cyril Ramaphosa, and of course the Speaker of the eThekwini municipality, my dear brother Tabani Nyawose, and councillors who were complaining earlier that they had not been greeted. I greet you more formally now. And I also extend my greetings and also gratitude to my elder stalwart, Mek Maharaj, who some of you may not know was the main instigator of both the icons that we are honoring today. First, when he was in Lusaka, he kept on instigating O.R. Tambo, and then he came back into the country and instigated Nelson Mandela, having spent a considerable amount of years with him in prison, and secretly, when he was released, took out Nelson Mandela's memoirs. So you can see that we were being addressed by a real instigator. And also my brother and comrade, Jeff Hadebe, greetings for such an eloquent presentation of a memoir. And members of the diplomatic corps and the Amakosi Asendlukulu and Inkosi Umlaba olapha nathi namhlanje, leaders of business and labor, veterans of our struggle, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to be present here in eThekwini in Durban and to address you today on the historic occasion of the unveiling of these immense statues, 9 meters tall, gigantic, and representing the likeness of Presidents Nelson Mandela and O.R. Tambo. The eThekwini municipality has, and we're very proud of this, bestowed this honor on these two icons of our struggle and of our history in recognition of their contribution towards our struggle for freedom, a history which was so well presented, in part because it can never be complete, by Mek Maharaj and Jeff Hadebe, leaders who struggle for social justice and the empowerment of our people. The monuments of this nature are important for preserving our history and our heritage as a people. They anchor the collective memory of a nation. When we look at them, we are able to have great memories, not only of what they stood for, but also of our nation and where we've come from. They are important as a public affirmation of the values which these two leaders represented and the principles for which
they stood and they fought. It was the Roman philosopher Marcus Cicero who said, "The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living." And indeed it is so that their lives is today lodged in our memory as those who are alive today. They stand as a reminder to future generations of the road and journey our nation has traveled, but more importantly of the aspirations of our future. Younger generations who did not live through the troubled times of our country, from colonialism to apartheid, and who did not experience apartheid and the liberation struggle, will learn through the monuments of these two giants of our nation that indeed we have traversed a long path as a nation. Of course, statues such as these provoke a number of questions, but they also initiate conversations about their value, but more importantly about our past. The presence of Mandela and Tambo in bronze ensures that their stories, and indeed the story of our country, remains truly and fully embedded in the landscape of the daily lives of our people and are not confined to textbooks. As today's unveiling, we reflect, or at today's unveiling, we reflect on the preeminent contributions that Tambo and Mandela made to the birth of a democratic South Africa. It is significant that these two statues are unveiled in the year that we celebrate 30 years of the adoption of our democratic constitution. It's a wonderful coincidence indeed, but I know for a fact that our mayor and his colleagues planned it so carefully to make sure that we unveil them this year. It was O.R. Tambo who initiated the drafting of the ANC's constitutional principles, which were developed while the liberation movements were still banned and while apartheid oppression was at its height. He had great vision and could see through the historic looking glass that the time had indeed come for South Africa to transition towards a constitution that would be the birth certificate of our entire nation. The constitutional principles anticipated the essential features of the democracy that we live in today. And 10 years after that, it was Nelson Mandela who signed our democratic constitution into law. It is one of the great coincidences of our history that the two partners of Mandela and Tambo attorneys were each to play such a pivotal role in the development and adoption of our democratic constitution and to build us the nation that they have done. The relationship between Mandela and Tambo was founded in a desire for justice. But this was not an elitist type of relationship, as Mac Maharaj said. It was a relationship that was given rise to by the people of our country. They knew as leaders that they were grounded on the will of the people of our country, and that what they did was not to represent themselves, even as they were the top lawyers of the time. Through their law firm, they fought for the rights of the poor and the marginalized. They fought for the rights of the oppressed and dispossessed. And they fought for those rights as lawyers, but they also did so as leaders who had been uplifted by our people. As young leaders, they were united in the defiance of unjust laws and in forging a vision of a South Africa which belongs to all who live in it and where the people themselves shall govern. That was their overriding commitment to a principle that based the will of the people above anything else. They could have been comfortable as lawyers, living a life of comfort, living a life that was completely removed from the struggles of our people. But they committed themselves to serving the people as the servants of our nation. As leaders of the ANC and founders of Umkhonto weSizwe, they took up arms against an apartheid state that was intent only on violent repression of our people. Even as they were separated for close on to 3 decades, Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo remained resolutely committed to the same cause. They fought the same struggle for liberation, and they strived towards the same vision. It is therefore fitting that they should be memorialized in this way in the same city, in the same precinct. While these statues honor great leaders of our past, they retain great meaning for our present. And they retain the greatest meaning for the role that has been played by our people. For Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo were leaders as our people were their own liberators. They remind us of what we value as a society. They were leaders that celebrated the diversity of South Africa's people. They dedicated their lives to the fight against racism, tribalism, and sexism. They sought to break down the divisions between African, colored, Indian, and white, between men and women, between the poor and the wealthy, and between the rural and the urban. Today, we are called upon to embrace their vision and continue their struggle towards a South Africa that is a home to all its people. Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo were men of peace, much as they took up arms to fight against an evil system. They sought to resolve conflict through dialogue, even as they were steeped in the armed struggle. Their aim was always, we engaging in this so that dialogue can begin. These men of peace would have been gravely concerned by the conflict underway in the Middle East today. They would have called on the United Nations Charter to be respected and upheld. They would have joined us in calling for an immediate ceasefire and for the conflict to be resolved through meaningful and earnest negotiations. They had the patience, they had the complete dedication of making sure that dialogue does triumph. They were not impatient, they were always ready to talk. Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo were leaders of great integrity and honesty. They sought no rewards for themselves, only freedom for their people. For this, they endured great hardships and made great sacrifices at a personal level. These are leaders that we need today, leaders that will serve, leaders that are selfless, leaders that are honest and ethical. As we build great statues of these leaders, we must understand that the most powerful and enduring moment to their leadership is in following their example. We must seek to be leaders like them, to be activists like them, and to be citizens like them, and to focus on a citizen-centric transformation process. We must realize that greatness is to be found not just in the celebrated victories of history, but in the many acts of committed service to the cause of human development. Now, these statues that we have unveiled today call on us not to be mere admirers or not to be mere watchers, not to be mere praise singers, but to be the active citizens in building a better nation, a better continent, and a better world. The National Development Plan reminds us that leadership does not refer to one person or even at a tight collective of people. It applies in every aspect of life. As we look at these statues, we are compelled to be active citizens and trustworthy, dedicated leaders. We unveil these statues knowing that people from across our country and across the world will come to see them. Our mayor has said they become a great tourism attraction. Our city manager has said, yes, there were 1.2 million visitors who came to Durban in the past season. And we want 1.5 million. I would say we want double the number that he's projecting. That's what we want. eThekwini is one of the premier tourist destinations in our country. And we can anticipate that these statues will contribute to exceptional growth in tourism. I can see people who will come to Durban, yes, to come and be in the sea, to look at the wonderful sights that you have, but also to immerse themselves in the history of our struggle as they watch these two statues and as they, through the QR codes, begin with their cell phones to focus on those QR codes and learn more about what has made Nelson Mandela and O.R. Tambo the great leaders that they are, but more importantly, how our people produced these two leaders. For they did not produce themselves. They were produced, shaped, and molded by our people, and they rightfully belong to our people. Whether you talk of O.R. Tambo coming from Harding, whether you talk of Nelson Mandela, maybe also coming from, where? Msinga. It's possible. They will contribute to a revival of the fortunes of the city as it works to tackle some of the challenges of recent years. We know that the city's beaches have just had a bumper season. It is said, as I said, that more than a number of people who visited the beaches over the festive season, that they enjoyed themselves bathing in the sea and enjoyed just being here in Durban, in eThekwini. This is a sign both of what the city has to offer and the hard work that has been done by all stakeholders to ensure that eThekwini is a place that people want to visit. And I now want to pay tribute to those who are working in the presidential working group that I set up 2 years ago, and particularly the co-chairs, Mike Mabuyakulu and DG Baleni, who have been leading this process, cooperating with all stakeholders. We pay tribute to you, but to all of you for having transformed and changed Durban to what it is today. Durban indeed is the tourism mecca of our country, and we want it to stay like that and even get better. In order to confirm this, I am pleased to announce that eThekwini will be the venue of the 46th Ordinary Summit of the Heads of States and Government of Southern Africa, of SADC. So because of all the work that you're doing and the progress that you're making, we will bring the SADC heads of state here in this metro. And one of the areas that I'd like to lead them to is to go and lay wreaths at either of the two statues of Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo. Now, this is a worthy recognition of the progress that has been made together with all social partners in restoring confidence in the city, and becomes an encouragement for you all to complete the work. We look forward as the chair of SADC, which we are today as South Africa, to invite leaders from across our region to gather here in eThekwini, where the African Union was launched, to deliberate on issues that are critical to the growth and the development of our region, Southern Africa. This would, in my view, be a fitting tribute to the legacy of Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo. To everyone who has been involved in the project, I want to say thank you for your dedication to ensure that these statues were put in the rightful place here in Durban. The challenge is to market these statues not only as tourist attractions, but as a part of the story of our struggle for freedom. It was in this city, as we heard, that Nelson Mandela spent his last night before his arrest at Howick on the 5th of August 1962. Having visited to brief Chief Albert Luthuli on his clandestine travels to different African countries. It was also in this city that Madiba made his iconic call for the people of this province to end the violence that had cost so many lives. It was here, within weeks of his release from prison in 1990, that Madiba said, "My message to those of you involved in this battle of brother against brother," it should have added sister against sister, "take your guns, your knives, and your pangas, and your spears, and throw them into the sea. End this war now," is what he said. And it was in this city, in July 1991, that Oliver Tambo handed over the presidency of the African National Congress to Nelson Mandela at the organization's 48th National Conference. So this is a historic city, and make the history of these two legends live and continue to live. In erecting these statues, we are indeed affirming the importance of preserving our heritage for the benefit of future generations. Having Mandela's and Tambo's statue in this same city honors their distinct interlocking contributions and roles in the liberation struggle, but it also strengthens our collective public memory. These statues are not mere art. Much as they were designed by artists, but they are not mere art. These statues are promises. Promises made by a free people to themselves that they will not forget what it cost to be free. The erection of the statues is an act of national gratitude, of saying to those who gave everything, but more particularly to the Mandela and Tambo families, that we do remember the sacrifices that they made, that were made by both leaders, as well as their families. Sometimes we forget that families of those who were deeply involved in the struggle also suffered. So by installing these statues and rightfully calling them Tambo and Mandela, we include their families, and that's why we're so pleased that their families are here today. It is also a reminder to those who have yet to inherit this democracy, those who will follow us, that freedom was not free, and that, and that those who fought for freedom deserve to be seen. We therefore deserve to see Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo across various landscapes of our beautiful country, lest we forget. I know that there's been great controversy about the erection of these statues, and I would like those who may have some doubts just to think for a while that what we have sought to do here goes way beyond what we may be debating, goes way beyond what we may think is the cost. The costs of what they contributed in our struggle is incalculable. We cannot even begin to count what it costs for us to be where we are. In stone and bronze, we continue to write our history. Not the history of those who held power unjustly, but the history of those who refused to let injustice to have the final word. We're writing the history of how our people struggled to be free. As we look at these two statues, we are looking at history. But more than being the history of Tambo and Mandela, it is the history of our people. But we are also telling the world that we will continue to honor the heroes and heroines of our struggle, and meaning the millions of all of us, of South Africans who fought for this freedom. As we face the challenges of today and tomorrow, we are, all of us, standing on the shoulders of these two brave men, but we are also standing on the shoulders of many men and women and children who fell and suffered during the struggle for our freedom. Their lives will continue to inspire and encourage us as we strive together for a better life and a better world. It is said that a nation that forgets its past has no future. We choose to have a future by remembering our past. We choose to have a future by remembering those who contributed to the struggle and to the success that we will continue to achieve as we move on. The preamble of our Constitution pays tribute and homage to those who worked and who suffered to build the South Africa that we now have today. But more importantly, the South Africa of our dreams, the South Africa that we will give as a bequest to our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. So this is a great moment, it's a great day for all of us, And truly, I think we should say that we are honored, all of us, to be present here to remember the contributions of Tambo and Mandela. Thank you very much.